Welcome back to Toronto, Canada, the day of the semifinals here at the U23 World Championships. I'm Brian Jones, here with Kevin Minderhout for one of the last days of action in the women division, the semifinals. Japan facing off against the host team, Canada. In the prior matchup, Japan took it in pool play 17-11, and so we have ourselves a rematch. We'll have to see if the Canadians can come back, but let's talk about number 2 seed Japan, who looked very good in their first game against Canada.
Yeah, Japan looking fantastic, coming number 2 out of pool play, 4 seed overall at this tournament, working their way up, leapfrogging over the Canadians and the Colombians to get that 2 seed. Players to watch, the captain number 22, Saki Suganuma. She is one of the top cutters for the Japanese squad. This tournament racking up 9 assists, 10 goals. Also, you're going to want to keep an eye on number 65, Hiroku Shishimoto, one of their fantastic handlers, as always with the Japanese. Very deadly with the disc, going to be moving the ball quickly around the field. She's got 7 assists, 11 goals on the tournament.
And if we look at the other side of the field, Canada coming in as the 3 seed, losing to Japan and USA in pool play. Not a tight game against Japan, tighter game against the United States after going down 5-0. We'll have to see how they respond here. Players to watch for Canada, though. Lauren Kimura has had a big tournament, 25 assists. Canada going deep right off the bat, striking Hatch, one of the fastest cutters on this Canadian team. Quick goal, and the Canadians are off to a better start than we've seen from them. Earlier in this tournament, they go up 1-0 on over Team Japan. Quick movement right off the bat, looking for the huck game. All of the Japanese teams here in the national play are typically undersized. We'll see if Canada tries to use Hatch downfield more often. Laura Hatch, number 71, the speedster. And now it's Japan's time to respond in these early goings. Looking at Canada injury report coming in. Their captain, Catherine Ho, will be out for the rest of the tournament with a concussion, suffering that on day 3 of action. Unfortunately, she will not be available for the rest of the tournament should Canada advance to the finals. Also, Canada usually divided up into pods, the West Coast and East Coast pods. Those teams normally playing together at the universities. They have a little bit more chemistry. Team Canada choosing to go with those pod systems on offense and on defense earlier in the tournament, but today reported from the coaches that they will go with whoever is playing the best D to try to get it done. And they have a specific game plan, specific defensive line tailored to this Japanese team, who's usually full of quick moving, fast, agile handlers who can get the job done with their throws. We'll see what the game plan is from Team Canada.
The other thing that could be wrong is the lens.
Ball coming
right.
from Fortune.
You may have to reseat the lens. Sometimes
And
that causes a problem.
Canada's defense almost gets down to stop the first throw.
The Canadians coming down in a 3-person cup, and Japan going deep early, right into the hands of the Canada deep, number 71, Laura Hatch. And a foul being called.
I would go reseat the lens.
Some contact on the play. Hatch able to get pretty big.
No, the viewfinder.
This one's going to go back to the thrower. Japan liking to strike deep. Shishimoto. Japan, despite their lack of size,
Thank God,
they like to use flat, low throws out in front and utilize their speed to get the mismatch. Shishimoto now looking back, tight on the resets. Able to get it off finally. Underneath. And Hatch is just a monster so far in this game. Moving it to Tucker. Hatch with a D and an assist thus far. One also that was called back earlier as a foul. Real. Looking deep. Coming in. Deed by the Japanese. They're going to get it right back. Nakamai.
The field out there nice and soft today. You can see where the players are standing. It had a little bit of rain. There was a water incident earlier on in this tournament, field 4. A sprinkler system bursting and flooding the whole field. That field shut down. But the weather has been pretty good all week. We've had wind on and off right now. We've got a very slight breeze, not enough to affect anything. The Canadians still coming down in zone, though, worried about the handler action and the quick pace of the Japanese team. We've seen the strategy by Germany yesterday in the quarterfinal matchup of the Open Division.
Really stifled the Japanese men's zone, but here, Kyoke getting the disc in the middle of the field. Back for Shishimoto, and now Canadians transfer to man defense. This one's going to pop in the air. D'd by the Canadians, second D of the point. Foul called. No foul on the play. Just trying to settle things down.
And a really nice transition by the Canadian team to get into man right away.
Ryu. Tucker, another one of the big stars here for the Canadians. Lots of assists on the weekend. Leading into it, Tucker and Canadians trying to be patient here, isolating a 3-1-3 offense. One cutter underneath trying to get open. Now they change things up. Along the sideline. Now flip for the goal. Tucker reeling it in. 2-0. Canada, a whole different game for them compared to pool play. Early lead, something they haven't been able to do on the Japanese or the USA. As the crowd starts to enter, see Japan having support in the stands from their Open Division teammates who were eliminated yesterday against Germany in a tight one. Canadians doing a very good job trying to deny the resets. We haven't seen that much attempted against the Japanese so far in these tournaments. Usually most teams being afraid to get beat up a line. However, Canada has the advantage here of having Laura Hatch back at the deep position. She so far has been a force in this game. Getting a D that was called back in a contest and getting another one on that possession. And we see Kimura with the pull. Lauren Kimura has had a fantastic tournament with 25 assists for the Canadians.
Those cords are like plastic, though.
She has played with her counterpart, Crystal Koo. Here comes Japan. Fukuoka. Shishimoto. And another zone here from the Canadians. Shishimoto. Need for Tanaka. Fukuoka. Suganuma. One of the top cutters marked by Kimura. Looking for the leading pass. Shishimoto going deep. Kyoke reels it in for the score. It's actually Kobayashi, Kana Kobayashi from Shishimoto. But a call on the play all the way back before the pass to Shishimoto. Japan trying to use their fast handler movement to work it into power position, then launch the Hucks. And we're about to get restarted here. Suganuma forced to go deep. A punt situation. This one's going to float. D'd by Canada. I say with the block. Koo trying to strike right off the bat. Scarth is there. Had a monster game against the U.S. Grabbed by Massey. Scarth. Kimura. Koo goes up line. Kimura. Back to Koo. Kimura goes up line for the score. 3-0 Canada. Opens up play in this first half. Japanese just unable to get anything going. Forced into hugging situations against the taller Canadians. An overcast day today, ground soft on the field. Wind a little bit of a crosswind. We've seen the wind swirl throughout this tournament. Change up, going to upwind, downwind, and going to pure crosswind. Flags fluttering around, and as Kevin said earlier,
Those two are chatting for a while.
it doesn't look like it's going to be impacting any play. Fukuoka out on the field for Japan, as well as Kyoke. Timeout on the field. However, we'll see if Japan can rally back from this 3-0 deficit, or can Canada keep up the momentum in this first half. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the U23 World Championships here in Toronto. Back here in Toronto, Canada, for first half action in the women's division. The semifinal between Team Canada and Team Japan. I'm Brian Jones, joined by Kevin Minderhout. Canada right now on a 3-0 run to start off this game. 2 breaks after scoring the opening possession on offense. Japanese have been unable to counterpunch against the Canadians, who are much taller and using that height to their advantage. Japanese usually liking to get hucks off of movement, but have been forced into stagnant throws. Credit the Canadian defense with great dump defense, stopping the easy resets from the Japanese, and their flow just has not looked the same as what we've seen in past matchups this week. Japanese took the first game 17-11. Canadians, knowing that they were likely to play in this game in the 2-3 matchup after losing to Team USA, decided to play more even lines to try to figure out what to do, and it seems like their game plan is working. This D-line has been specifically tailored to the Japanese Kimura with the pull. The superstar for Team Canada. This one going to hang high, and we see Japan come out in a vertical stack. Front of the stack moving. Shishimoto trying to strike deep. Kyoke going to get it in open space. Japan trying to get on the board for the first time. Shishimoto trying to make a check cut to the horizontal side. Gets it just before the goal line. Fakes. Shishimoto has command of this team and gets them on the board. Great adjustment by Japan, but a call on the play. Not going to bring it back. Japan on the board. 3-1, the Canadians lead. As we take here a moment to look at the action as we see Japan, you can see the energy that their team brings throughout, even in the stands, the open team cheering them on in the exact same way. Almost for every point, these predetermined celebrations. Love the style and energy that the Japanese play. Very exciting to watch at this tournament thus far. Despite the amount of size disadvantage, you would think that would make them a more patient team, but no, they love the deep game. All of the teams from the Japanese play this style.
Hey Adam, how do I turn up the brightness on the computer?
Japanese counter the Canadian defense with a vertical stack. From the stack, Shishimoto able to get open. 2 players from Canada unable to come down and stop the pull play. Shishimoto near the end zone, able to punch it in for Japan's first goal. And here comes Canadians offense. We have not seen them since the first point of the game, and a zone from the Japanese, a 3-3-1. Turning into a 3-man cup. Great grab behind the play, keeps it alive. On the sideline. Hammer across field. Works out. Sparks moves it up. Floating. Just can't make the catch. Marin couldn't come down with it. Has had one of the coaches pointed to Marin as one of the star players here on the Canadian team. Japanese going the other way. Overthrow, gives it right back. Tucker. Canadians now facing a 4-man cup. Japanese refuse to play man defense. Tucker. Ryu. Staying patient now, a three-man cup. Tanaka back in the middle position. Hammer. This was going to float. Deed by the Japanese. Kyoke gets it back. Japanese trying to strike quickly. Getting their first real D of the game against this Canadian offense. Centers the disc. Kawada. Contact on the play, holds on to it. Takamasu. But Hatch comes up with her second D of the game. Almost would have had 3 if it weren't for a contested call. Hatch has been an absolute monster. The speedster on this Canadian team. Trying to stretch the field. Ryu. To Tucker. Ryu. Tucker. Fakes the huck. Canada has taken risks through the zone. Thrown a couple hammers. Now into a high-style situation. Chen getting it back to Tucker. Japanese zone pushing them back. Hammer over the top. Marin puts it through. Trying to go over the top again. Tipped, but caught by Hatch for the goal. Kyoke just in despair goes to the ground. Had the D in her hands. Unfortunately for the Japanese, that tip falls right into Laura's Hatch hands. For her, she now has a goal, an assist, and 2 Ds on this game. But a call, we might have a call all the way back. And now we're rejoined here by Kevin Minderhout, having to deal with a little bit of technical difficulties behind the scenes. Glad to have you back, Kevin.
Thank you, Brian. Sometimes when it rains, it pours, as it did last night. We had a wet connection, had to go snap a new one on there. Excited to get back to this game.
Going through the zone, Japanese have been successful, forcing multiple turnovers. Takamasu. Center handler. Takamasu, Kawada, excuse me, now with the disc.
The Canadians in a flick person mark. Downfield, the Japanese a little bit cluttered right now. They're going to want to organize up that stack, get back into their set offense. It looks like there was a pick out on the field, trying to decide when the pick was called, get the stall count in right. Disc is back in.
Sugimoto. Back for Kawada. Now forced to go to Tanaka. Canadians not allowing the Japanese to establish any sort of throw. This one too far for Shitani. Back to the Canadians. Tucker now runs to the disc. Japanese staying in their zone defense. Canadians just have to stay a little bit more patient. Over the top, Aaron putting up for Hatch. Comes down with it in the back of the end zone, and that's her second goal. They do it again. The Canadians looking her way the entire time. 4-1 they lead.
And the assist there by Jordan Marin. That throw that we talked about much earlier in the week when the U.S. was playing Canada, and the ability and the decision-making of the U.S. teams when they're going to that corner, tending to release the disc much higher, allowing it to float down onto the player. The alternative in that case would have been a blade throw, Brian, and that one would be coming down extremely hot, much less room for error there. And Marin just popping that one over the top. None of the Japanese defenders able to get there in time. Good eye by Marin to get up with the 3-point lead. Canada leading Japan 4-1. I'm also seeing the marks of Canada being very aggressive, very physical.
Kimura with the pull. Fukuoka. Zone from the Canadians trying to trap them against the Flick sideline. Tsushimoto fakes the hucks, move the cup. Suganuma, normally a cutter. This one going to float too high, going to give it back to the Canadians. And the Japanese just a little bit out of sync in this early going. Going to do several turnovers. Kimura looking for Ku. The line clearing. Scarth. Looking underneath from the stack. Kimura. Scarth. Big target downfield. Able to reel it in. Size advantage, but Scarth can't hit Kimura on the backfield. Going to give it back to the Japanese. Tsushimoto. Fuji on the sideline. Japan continuing marching up down that Flick sideline. Foul called on the play. Bump after the catch. Looking for Tsushimoto. Great play from Ku, reading the poach correctly. Kimura.
And Ku just took off after that D. The Canadians trying to get the pace up, run on the fast break. Not effective there. Kimura just getting a little bit stalled out with the disc. Kimura's been fantastic for the Canadians. Really enjoyed watching her play. Love her technique when she's holding the disc, able to really step out, have a strong base with her feet, and put a lot of spin and snap on that disc.
Tsushimoto, an angled stack from the Japanese. Something we usually see when the disc is on the sideline here. Gets it going, inside break, Fuji. Okay, putting this one deep for the score. Japanese staying with it. 4-2, Canada leads.
And that was a classic Japanese score, going dead side over the stack with a bladey throw. The Japanese are fantastic at that, at going from left to right all the way across the field with the blade hucks. It's really a signature style of the Japanese teams, and something that a lot of U.S. teams, a lot of North American teams, excuse me, are not always prepared for. North American teams tend to generally cut force side, looking for the disc coming more vertically along the field. The Japanese going from near side to far side to near side, more so than staying all on one side of the field.
4-2 last time. Japanese defense came down the field. They came in the zone look and stayed in it for the entire time. Canadians choosing to split the deep with two open receivers, finding Laura Hatch eventually for the goal. It's created the turnovers that the Japanese defense have wanted. The Canadians have been loose with the disc. We'll see if they stick with that strategy or if the Canadians can adjust well to the zone and stay a little bit more patient.
And the zone look, I really like by the Japanese. Feeling like they want to stop the handler core of the Canadians, which is where a lot of the firepower is. Not wanting them to huck it deep. They're handling.
As we say that, Hatch taking off again. Third goal here today. 2 Ds, 3 goals, 1 assist for Laura Hatch.
Laura Hatch, they call her Wheels on Canada because she's got the speed. And they're a set play for her, just utilizing her natural gifts, Hatch able to run it down. Not having the biggest receiving tournament for Canada in terms of goals, but somebody that they've expected and know that they can rely on time in and time out. Hatch with plenty of juniors international experience of her own. Similar to this whole Canadian team, 17 of 20 members of the team have participated on national teams before, so a lot of experience brought in by the Canadian squad.
Great start in the early goings here as we're midway through the first half. 5-2 Canada leads. Have just been able to huck it over this Japanese squad. Japanese have responded with a couple of quality possessions after going down 3-0. This type of situation requires them to chip away at the lead. This is by no means out of reach. Coaches of Team Canada were very impressed with the Japanese squad early on. A lot of respect. It's really tough, though, to beat a team twice in a tournament when it comes down to it, especially with the talent of both of these squads.
Yeah, people say that, Brian, but it really shouldn't be as hard as some people make it out to. If you've beaten them once, you know how to beat them again. You should be more familiar, more ready to beat them. But I do understand that seems to be a common complaint. The Canadians back in the zone. Not super windy, just trying to slow down the pace of the Japanese handlers.
They did a great job early on, and here we see a great transition to man defense. Tsushimoto. Finding Tanaka, call on the play.
I would imagine it looks like the call is coming from number 5 on the Canadian squad, Peliquin. And I'm imagining it's a stall count. Looked like she signaled it was coming in on 8. Indeed it is.
Having to go up, tipped in the air. Okay. Second disc she's had her hands on. First one was a D that was tipped to Laura Hatch. She can't come down with that one either. Krista Koo. And a horizontal stack from the defense, trying to strike deep right off the bat. Too far behind the receiver, doesn't work out for the Canadians.
And Yori Fuji getting the unintentional D there. Wasn't really ready for the disc to come in, but helps make sure they get the disc back. Chance to go upwind.
Poaching from the Canadians off of this angled vertical stack. Tsushimoto finding Fuji underneath. Transitioning now to the man defense. Sugadinwa picks it up almost off the ground. This one, though, going to be a turf flick. We have a call on the play.
And that poaching left number 5, Kobayashi, wide open. She was unable to take advantage of it. She kept standing in the stack. Really, Kobayashi should have busted deep there. They would have had a clean look deep and not been in this turnover situation.
Mura looking deep. Receiver is there. Sandwich on the backside. Caught for the goal. Peliquin coming down with it. Aya Peliquin with the goal. Kimura just putting it up in a double coverage, but nobody takes the backside receiver. Going right into view at the right time. 6-2, Canada leads.
And nobody knew the backside receiver Peliquin was there. And Kimura's got a cannon, Brian. Again, very impressed with her abilities and the quickness with which she throws the disc. There's not a lot of wasted time in her throwing motion. No hitches, no awkward balance, just very fluid, pure handler throwing. And her stats definitely reflecting her abilities as a handler. Picking up 25 assists, add another one to that. A very impressive total for Kimura. Those pod systems working well right now. We talked about earlier when the Canadians met the Japanese, the Canadians already knowing that they were going to be a 2-3 seed regardless of the results of that game, spent a lot more time trying to figure out what they wanted to do, what looks were good, possibly also not wanting to give the Japanese a look at what they had in the toolbox. So that game going in favor of the Japanese, 17-11. Now the Canadians really opening this one up, 6-2.
Tsushimoto, Fukuoka, Tanaka. You can hear the counting the throws from the Canadians. They're going to transition here, and it looks like they've already done so. Fukuoka putting this one deep, looking for Kobayashi. Kimura can't run it down. Kobayashi on the line. Looking for Fuji. Out route for the goal. 6-3. Canada still with the 3-point lead.
And well done by the Japanese, taking advantage of the transition. They had a cutter coming out of the stack, which left an isolation play deep for Kobayashi on Kimura. And Kobayashi just kept Kimura underneath her, timing it perfectly, and goes deep for the near score, instead getting the assist. Very well executed by the Japanese, taking advantage of that transition zone. I think the Canadians are probably going to stick with it. That time, unable to get a deep back. They've been very conscious about making sure they had a deep in the backfield and then clogging the front end of the field where the handlers are. A lot of these teams showing similar strategy. We saw it with Germany yesterday. Not too worried about the intermediate game. More concerned with the deep and the handler action.
It's a game plan that has worked so far for the Canadians here in this early going. You've seen a lot of hucks, some of them into crowds of people, but they've been picked up by the taller Canadian receivers. Japan going to have to overcome that height mismatch if they're going to come back and win this one.
Yeah, she's played. I've watched her play a couple
And the Canadians really pressuring the handlers and with the marks. Extremely physical. Making it very difficult for them to do exactly what they want.
Tucker, Ryu. Underthrows, gives it back. Fukuoka. Mizuno. And you can see right there the physicality getting on the mark. Tucker coming in. Stoppage on the play, and we will resume right here. Inside break behind the receiver. Ends up in Chen's hands. Looking underneath. Fakes up the line. Forced to go back. Ryu. Getting open for the dump. Japanese poaching in the lane. Chen. Ryu on the up line. Surprised nobody going deep there, but the Japanese really backing Canadian receivers. Tucker. Across the field. Fortune open for the. Tips it. Stays in bounds for the goal. 7-3. Canadians lead.
And Fortin getting very lucky here on the second chance. Making an excellent play. Great awareness of her feet to keep that one in bounds. Looks like there's some discussion about it. Always a little bit difficult when you have the Porterfield out there. I did not see any drag in this particular instance. As you can see there on the right side of your screen, the field not particularly straight as it is. Japanese calling for the drag. Not so sure. I saw the line move. I thought really excellent job of Fortin. Potentially underneath the line. I think that could be something that's called. I've seen that before with the Porterfield. Since your feet aren't above the line, you can get your toe underneath the line, and technically that would be out of bounds, making it just extremely difficult to legitimately toe drag on a Porterfield. I think the Japanese, they're making the right call after some discussion. Yes, you're in, again, a very difficult situation to really determine whether or not that's in or out due to the physical existence of the Porterfield line. Much easier if it's a painted on stripe that's immovable and you can't go under.
One of the rare plays to see that there. Underneath the line, perhaps. Nonetheless, 7-3, the Canadians lead over Team Japan.
The Canadians with a rare number combination out there, Brian. 90, 91, 92, all out on the same field. You don't see too many high numbers in Ultimate, and to have all three in a row just caught my attention.
All those players, too, doing very well. High impact here early on. Tucker, Aran, Fortune.
The Canadian fans out here, home field advantage. Not big, the crowd, but enthusiastic. Still cheering on for defense here with the 4-point lead. Canadians up 7-3. Japanese going downwind. Some contact in the middle of the field. And Canada coming back in with the zone. I'm sure we'll see another transition to man after a few throws.
Tip pass leads to a turnover. No time for a few throws. Gives it back. Kimura picking up the disc near the end zone. Koo poached. Gets it in the center of the field. Overthrow, but right there for the goal. One of the taller receivers for Team Canada, Madison. That's someone we're normally used to seeing on the stat sheet. Gets involved. Intended throw for Wong. Madison cleans it up.
Great awareness by Madison to see that the disc is coming up high. Wong not going to be able to get it, so Madison coming in, picking it up. Fortunately, had her defender on the backside without a chance to make a play on that disc. Japan down 5 points now, Brian. The gap getting a little bit scary. If you're the Japanese, you have to be concerned that if we don't score this point, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I don't know if the Japanese were expecting the Canadians to come out as strong, given their 17-11 victory earlier in the tournament.
A little bit of shell-shocked here for the Japanese squad. 1 point away from halftime, and we've talked about it before that really no game is out of reach until it's over. But in these semifinals with the Canadians so high talented, it's going to be tough to overcome that deficit. Closer and closer we get to the second half. Japanese could certainly use a little run of their own here. Tsushimoto holding it. More zone from the Canadians. Tsushimoto back. Fukuoka. Kyokie looking deep. This one's going to float. Two defenders back. Fuji makes the catch. Great grab from Fuji. Tanaka. Tsushimoto. Backhand force from the Canadians. Underneath, Fuji. Can she make another play to help Japan stay alive in this first half? Call on the play, Tsushimoto.
Fuji being guarded by the long arms of Allison Short, making it very difficult to get a throw out there. Even with full extension, Short's wingspan just getting in the way of any throw she wants. Short barely having to jump on a fake because she's so long, so much bigger than the handler in that situation.
Fukuoka. Fuji, though, quicker than Short. Gets it up the line. Japan, a much-needed point in this first half. Still down 8-4.
And we're going to take another look at the Fuji grab here.
If you're Team Canada, this is the situation you like to be in.
And great use of the body by Fuji. And here on the upline break, that was Short. Just after Fuji got rid of the disc, Short got caught on the back of her heels, sort of looking at Fuji and not ready for the go. You have to assume if you're guarding a Japanese handler that as soon as they get rid of that disc, they're going to be going. And Short unable to turn her hips to get in the upfield direction. If you had a chance to look at the replay again, you'll notice that Short's hips are facing from left to right on your screen, and Fuji just runs past her. Short unable to catch up. Just something you have to be extremely mentally ready for in that situation. Another look at the Fuji grab. And Brian, I don't think that is how you get back into a game when you're down. I think it might give you a small step, but you can't do that consistently. You can get one or two of those, and then you have to get back into your game plan and really focusing on what you're going to do. It is nice to know that, hey, look, we can throw it deep and we can run, we can hang with these people in the air, but it's not a consistent strategy that'll get you out of a deficit and get your team breaks.
I think if you're Team Canada, you come off the field and say, hey, that was ours, we'll get it next time. You don't deviate necessarily from the game plan because of that one play.
Agreed.
Tucker, hammer wide open in the middle of the field. Wutong. Chen, no hesitation, looking for a hatch. Kyoke gets the D this time, denying Hatch's fourth goal of the game. Kawada in Japan with a chance to go on the run they so desperately need. Get a little bit of momentum before the end of this first half. And Oyue underneath. Japan normally loving to huck from this position.
Squeaking that one in past Fortin.
Tanaka, Canadians giving chase. Call on the play. Coming in on 0. Foul on the mark. Tanaka, another foul, and we see the Japanese starting to call the Canadians on this physicality on the mark. Tanaka. Kawada. Oyue up the line. Now continuing on, not available. Again, a fantastic job on these Japanese handlers trying to deny the resets. Kawada able to get open that time up the line. And Fortin.
Pick call downfield. They're going to reset. They know exactly what happened. Is going to get this disc back into play quickly. Short on the mark. No, Fortin on the mark.
Trying to pin the Japanese against the sideline. Tight quarters, getting it off to Tanaka. Call on the play. Would have been a turnover, but this one is going to come back.
And Fortin really yelling out the call. Something that hasn't been done all that well. I think we're going to see a stall count here. Stall call here. Again, very hard to tell exactly what's being called. But coming from the marker, I'm guessing she's not calling an offensive foul, so the only call she has that she can make is either travel or stall. Was been holding on the disc for a little while. Again, this game's self-officiated. I'm sure all of you at home know that, but the players out there responsible for making their own calls, deciding the outcomes on their own.
Putting this one in a high stall situation. Up, Scarth in the area, gets the G for the Canadians. Japanese just not highly skilled at retrieving those 50-50s.
I don't think it's a matter of skill, Brian, so much as the height advantage of the Canadians coming into play there.
Real in the back of the end zone. Japanese staying in the zone. Now looks back. Tucker, a blade to Fortin. Gets it off. Hatch deep. Looking for Hatch. Reels it in just before the goal line. This one for a half for the Canadians. Hatch still looking for the dish. Finding Tucker, and a timeout called by the Canadians right on the goal line in the hands of Tucker, the main handler. Canadians with a great chance to take half here. As you can see in the replay, Hatch able to run that one down.
What do you think of this?
Just looking for the dish. In this first half, really, if we look at a recap, the Canadians open things out with a 3-0 lead, built off of 2 breaks. The Japanese finally respond and have been able to get a few points here to maintain a 4-point gap. But the Canadians have just executed their game plan very well. Only a few missed opportunities that really they could have taken advantage of.
And the Japanese, I think, were onto something with the foul calls to loosen up the Canadian marks. You can do it in a way that doesn't come off as being excessively call-oriented, but if you make the call consistently and you say, and you go and you explain every time you make the call that the contact is there, I think you'll be able to get the Canadians to back off their marks a little bit and allow you the space that you need to get those throws off, because the Canadians really are encroaching quite a bit. It just has to be done in the right tactical manner in which the calls are made and with consistency. And getting a little bit more space for the thrower could mean the big difference for the Japanese squad.
Canadians are threatening to take half. Tucker, isolation play, wide open for the goal. Fortin puts it in for the Canadians. They'll take the 9-4 lead and carry this into the break.
And some jubilation from the Canadian squad. Very thrilled. And why not? You're going into half of the semifinals of the U23 World Championships up 5 points, 9-4, against a very good Japanese team. A lot to be happy about there, Brian.
Especially against a team that beat you 17-11. Canadians going in this half very confident. The Japanese have some work to do to rebound in the second half, have to overcome a 5-point deficit. They will be starting on offense. We'll see if they can get back into it. This has been Next Gen Network's coverage of the U23 World Championships. We'll be back for second half action in about 10 minutes. Thanks for tuning in thus far. And we're back here for second half action of the women's semifinals. Team Canada versus Team Japan. Canada with the 9-4 lead after the first half here at the U23 World Championships. I'm Brian Jones here with Kevin Minderhout, part of Next Gen Network's coverage here at York University. We've got ourselves a great slate of games ahead today, but first we're going to finish off this second half. Team Canada building a surprising lead in the first half, Kevin.
And you could call it surprising only if you were looking at the results of the Canada-Japan game earlier in this tournament, where Canada came away the winner 17-11. But as we mentioned, the Canadians just feeling out the Japanese team. They were guaranteed a spot in the 2-3. It didn't matter how they did there. It was going to shake out exactly the same. So not too much of a surprise if you watch Canada play in their other games, strong performance against the U.S.
And the other scores around so far. USA actually down 7-6 against Venezuela in the mixed division. And going on the other. Looking deep for Fuji. Over the middle. Fuji can't bring it in. Has to go to the ground. That one just too short. Koo. Picking it up for the Canadians. Kimura. Lamb. Looking for Wong. Call on the play. Lamb. This one gonna float. Caught. That's A. Looking now for Kimura back. Kimura. Koo. Wind picking up. Canadians going down. When Madison picks up the tip. Saves it for the Canadians. Now looking backfield. Koo. Kimura. Break here to start things off would be huge for the Canadians. Koo. Floats this one in the middle of the field. Koo thinking she had a free throw, it looked like. This one's going to come back. Koo, play restarts. Kimura. Finding Wong on the goal line. Lamb. Great D by the Japanese. Going to be a call on the play or an injury, it looks like. Look here on the replay. Fuji making a name for herself in this one. Yuri Fuji made a 50-50 grab earlier in the game to try to keep Japan in it. Turnover is going to stand. Very important for the Japanese to shut down the Canadians on that end zone possession. Shishimoto. We can hear the Japanese open team giving their support. Now looking backfield. Suganuma. Fukuoka. Peliquin was hot on the trail for defense, but unable to get the D. Contact. Suganuma. Underneath. Kyoike. Fuji. Some good flow from the Japanese in this possession. Tsushimoto. Fukuoka. Call on the play. Gonna go back to Shishimoto. Shishimoto. Fukuoka. Tanaka. Okay, going deep. Kimura with the D. Going to get it back for the Canadians. Kimura from the goal line for the Canadians. Looking for the underneath, finding Wong. Nobody stretching the field for the Canadians. They've loved the huck early on. That's what built this lead. Kimura. Call on the play. Fukuoka slipping on the field. Some discussion on the field here about what's going on after the foul.